Got him, big one. Big one. Just kind of like drop that right in on the main part of the tree. Yes, that's the kind of crappie we're looking for right there. Well, welcome back to the channel, guys and girls. Last year I released a video on how to fly fish for crappie, and it wasn't the best how to fly fish for crappie video. I had a banger day catching crappie, anywhere between like the 10 to 12 inch range on the fly rod. It was super, super fun. I'm in a 16-foot boat right now, but you can do this out of a kayak, of course. And one of the most common questions I got asked is, what fly are you using? And I showed it real quick, and I meant to do a follow-up video. So this is the follow-up video on how to tie the fly I was using. I'm gonna make one modification to the tail. The tail I used last year was called a Cohen's paddle tail. It's basically made out of like fake leather. What we're gonna do is kind of a grub tail style fly. So I'm gonna leave the full recipe. I'm gonna leave the full recipe for this fly below. And I'm gonna tie one real quick. I'm just gonna kind of like step through it real quick. I got my Renzetti Traveler, I think it's called. The only vise I got, so I tie a lot with this vise. I'm gonna use a Denier size 6 hook. And I'm gonna use these fat tungsten cone heads. That is key. What we wanna do with these crappie is kind of get the fly into the structure as much as possible and then pull it out. And so they come off the structure to try to chase it. So we want something that's basically jigging the fly kind of through there. So I'm gonna start by putting that cone on there and putting it up in the vise. Let's get the camera up close here and see if I can film and tie this at the same time. I've only done one other fly tying video. This will be my second one. So hope you guys learn something from this, and then let's go hammer some crappie. It's 55-degree water temp, so it's a little bit warmer than last year. So they should be, hopefully they're still on their spawning spots. We're gonna start with some really heavy 210 Denier flat waxed white. And I'm just gonna put that up on there. This is gonna wobble a little bit just because I'm not on a really hard surface here. And this doesn't need to be really pretty. Most of the time a pickerel or something like that, or a pike, will bite me off faster than I can retie another one. And then since we have lead, we're gonna do basically just break off a piece of lead here and wrap it around. I'm not doing this in the exact order that I would normally do it in, but, and we want to push that as far forward as possible. And you can use lead-free wire too, just do more wraps, because we want a pretty heavy fly. And I normally want to push this as far forward as possible, just like that. So we have more of a jig style. And then you can just take your scissors and cut that extra off. I don't know, I do anywhere between 10 to 13 laps depending on how deep I want to fish. Then I have a piece of fake leather, a faux leather. I found this at Michael's, I think. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a grub tail style thing out of this. So I'm going to start here and kind of cut my way into here. I'm just kind of guessing at this. This is kind of like a prototype. I think it'll have a little bit better action and it won't get hung up as much as the Cohen's paddle tail. And so what that's going to do is that's going to straighten out and kind of create like a curly effect. And you can play around with how far back you want this. They tend to short strike, so you want to keep it kind of short, just like that. And then I have some Crosscut rabbit strips by Hairline. We're going to tie that in and wrap it up to the front. That's going to create our body. And so the Crosscut has one direction to it. See how it's like all kind of all put in one direction? So we're just going to cut a chunk off of this, big chunk, and then we'll tie it into there. And we want it kind of spiraled on our way up. So, and I'm doing this kind of rough here. Do that. Spiral our way up. And if you wanted to make it a lot prettier, you can get your fingers wet and kind of palmer this stuff back. Makes it really nice. And then you can bulk the head up a little bit more too. And then this doesn't need to be pretty. This is not a trout fly. And like I said, you can make that tail however long you want. Make sure you get a good, nice grip on that. And then I don't have any glue today, so we're just gonna whip finish that real quick. Don't critique me on the fly tying. Almost lost my thing in the, and snip it. And there you go. There we have our little straighten out grub tail and a nice fluffy looking minnow pattern right there. Super quick to tie. The other great thing is you can use your normal trout leader. So what I like to do is use a normal 5X poly leader. And I like to cut it back until you basically get out of your tippet section to, like, I don't know, this was a 9-foot leader. I'm making it fairly short because this is a pretty heavy fly. Just cut your tippet section off. And since we're using a bigger fly than this kind of allows, you can use a polymer knot. If you want to look that up, go right ahead. That's my favorite knot for this stuff. You can use a loop knot if you want. I tend not to use a loop knot because I think it gets hung up in trees and stuff a little bit easier. It allows that fly to, like, wrap around stuff a little bit tighter, and it's not as tight to the fly line as you want it to be, especially for these fish that are going to be tucked up in trees and stuff. So polymer knot, wet it, and trim your tail. Tail goes in the boat. Let's go catch some crappie. And I'll walk through all the rest of the details on, like, where to cast, how to cast, that kind of stuff right now. All right, so we're using a 4-weight fly rod with a weight forward 4-weight fly line. A 5-weight would be a little bit better. I just don't have a 5-weight. I just always fish with a 4-weight, just a little bit lighter on gear and line and stuff like that. So that's what I got. It's a G Loomis. You can use as cheap of a rod as you want. What we're gonna do is we're gonna head upstream here. This is a flooded river, and we're gonna look for a submerged or half submerged structure. So that is a key piece of structure right there. There's also some laydowns right here. Crappie will be stacked up on that stuff early spring. And ideally this would be a very bright and sunny day. Doesn't have to be, it's just, I like to sight fish, and you can see in the water, this water is very tan and stained because it is a river. Here in New Hampshire, there's a lot of pine trees, as you can see from around. So we got a nice lay down right here. Oh, got one already. Got one already. Oh, and he popped off. That was legit first cast. And one of the reasons for the bright white fly is so I can see it disappear. Because these fish have a tendency, they have a big paper mouth, and what they do is they'll inhale the bait and you won't even feel it. All the way up in these weeds and stuff like that. I know you can't see behind me, but this head camera can. And fish will come screaming out for it. Oh, just got tagged. Oh, I missed him. Oh, that was a big perch. There we go, big crappie. And some of these fish can get up to like 2 pounds, which is really, really big for a 4-weight. But just play them like you normally would a trout. Low pressure. But there's the first one. That little curly tail is doing its thing. Nice little crapster. So they got big eyes up top and that little tiny paper mouth. And they just open up that little bucket mouth of theirs and inhale that fly. So you want to be able to see it, because you won't, it's not like always a hard strike like a trout will do. Going right back in. You can just paddle up to a log or a structure. If you have sonar, that helps a little bit, obviously. So you can see submerged stuff. The stuff that you can't see is where it's really good. And a lot of the times, the bigger ones will be at the very base of the structure where you can't, even with bright sunlight, they are so glued right to the tree that you can't see them. So as far as retrieves go, I'll get that out of the way right now because that was one of the questions. I'm gonna cast out there and let it sink right next to that structure. And I'm just gonna give it little pops back. Oh, right there. That's a pickerel actually. Wrong species, but still super fun. That's one of the reasons why you want a pretty stout leader, because those guys will bite you off. Not everybody in water has those obviously, but a lot of them do. And so I'm just letting that fly sink because it's fairly heavy, and I'm kind of jigging it back. It's just going like that. And if you're out in the open like this, you're bound to catch a pickerel or something like that. So there's a bunch of trees up on this little kind of bank here, and then there's a bunch on that shoreline, and then there's a bunch of main lake ones, if you want to call them that. So let's get right up on these. I know it's fairly shallow over there. I fish here quite often, so. And one of the advantages of I both spin cast and fly fish for crappie. One of the advantages of fly fishing for crappie is you can put that fly exactly where you want it, and it can be neutrally buoyant, right? Unlike a jig where you can't really throw a light, super light jig. It's neutrally buoyant. You can make this however weight you want and let it sink, and you can strip it right through there without getting hung up on stuff, and you lose a lot less gear. And it's tons of fun, guys. It's just absolutely a lot of fun. So we want to start, so with my boat I can hit what's called spot lock, but right now there's like no wind. We want to start at the very, very tip of the tree and work our way in. We want to see that fly sink. And chartreuse works as well. There we go. And all we're doing is looking for that fly to disappear, guys. That's all we're doing. Like I said, the bite is really hard to detect sometimes. What's that? Just a little guy. But there's another one. And he's gonna go right back over to that tree. I'm not even concerned. I've seen them do it. They know where they were last. And we want to cast right up on that structure right there. And ideally I'd be on the non-glare side of this because I can barely see. Ooh, I missed one. Chartreuse might be a really good color for this too. Something that is bright for both them and you. Just missed one. Got it. Another one. If I was taking these home, I mean, limiting out, I'm at 3, 4 already. It'd be super easy to do. And they'll chase it right to the boat. That's what's nice about them. And they taste way better than trout do, I feel. They're more of a white fish, white meat. So my fly just went up and over a log without getting snagged on it. There's no way you could have done that with a jig. And some of the bigger ones will be all the way back on the main stem of the tree. Wish it was bright and sunny out. I could see these guys a little bit better. Got him, big one. Big one. Just kind of like drop that right in on the main part of the tree. Yes, that's the kind of crappie we're looking for right there. That's the kind of big ones we're looking for. And what I like to do is hit a spot, hit a tree for a little while, work them for a little bit, and then I'll leave and then come back. Usually that helps you catch more fish. So especially if you spook them with the boat. I got way too close to the boat. Got him. Got him, got him, got him. Another one, small one though. But there's a bunch back in there. So when I don't know if you guys can see this through my head cam, but what I'm doing is I'm stripping this. The floating line is staying on the surface. And what I'm doing is I'm stripping this up like this. So this is tight. It's going hop, 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 hop. It's actually a knot in my line because I haven't fixed it yet. But this is just kind of hopping on the bottom, just jigging it back and waiting for it to disappear. And it seems to be working out pretty well. Now they will chase a fly, but they're not like a trout where they won't like hammer after it because it's a streamer. They are a opportunist fish. So on this particular pond, there is really no deep spot. So the crappie will still be up on the shallows during the summertime, but they'll be in vegetation, hiding right in the vegetation, waiting to come out and get something for the most part. And then during, like if this was deep, like a bowl pond, they'll be in that deepest part, kind of just chilling out in that cold water refuge that's at the bottom. Got him. Got him, got him, got him. And yeah, I know I shouldn't be high sticking this rod, but this is a slow speed G Loomis IMX Pro. It's not a super fast action rod, so I'm not too worried about snapping it. These are a schooling fish, so they like to stay with each other as much as possible. I have seen in the spring, which was what I call a lone wolf, especially when I'm using electronics, is there'd be a bigger one, looks like a bass on electronics, but it's just a big female that's ready to spawn, and she's usually way bigger than everybody else. And so this tree is going just like this. So I'm casting over there at the back of it, basically, and it's chipping it back towards me. And I caught one and missed one, which means there's more than, there's some bubbles right there. And you can work it slow, you can work it fast. Try to work it as slow as possible. This could be a little bit lighter of a fly, so a couple less wraps of lead. And another thing, I can pick up and cast, 20 feet of line without reeling in. Like you can reset a bad hook set really fast. And if I was in a kayak or a canoe or something like that, I would just bring an anchor with me. And kind of anchor off on the bottom side of this, whatever the wind side's blowing me on. Well, I know you're in there. Well, thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys learned something about catching crappie on the fly rod. It is super fun. It is super like sight fishing. It is really, really good if you're new to fly fishing, or if you're trying to teach somebody, or you're trying to get your kids into fly fishing. Crappie and pickerel and like bluegill and stuff will almost always bite compared to a trout. They are not super picky. It's very visual, so Give them a bright white streamer like we tied. Let them cast it out there, flop it around in a canoe or something like that, and just hammer the crappie. This is the time of year. Springtime, I know I'm in New Hampshire, so my season's probably, I'm the latest besides Canada, basically, to have the season. But maybe next year, get on those crappie, or even in the summertime when they're up on those structures. Get out there, have some fun, catch some fish on the fly rod. Thanks for watching.